Welcome everybody to Two Frat Boys. I'm Jesus Diaz.
I am Anthony Aldano.
Excellent. For those of you who are just seeing us for the first time, we are two friends, fraternity brothers, and business partners who started working together at a very young age and launched a business, sold the business, and we're now fast forwarding to 2006, where we're 7 years into the actual events business, about 4 years into the magazine business. And it's we just come off our biggest event of all time at Hunter College with more than 1,900 rowdy, crowded, people in the room. And then unfortunately after the show, something not so great happens, which we're going to talk about today. Anthony, why don't you tell us more?
Right. So the unfortunate thing that happened is, as Jesus mentioned, coming off our highest attended all-time show that will never do better than, what was it, 1960, 1,960 some odd people at Hunter College, Silk 6, June 10th, 2006. I get called to a Starbucks meeting with the CEO and president and a number cruncher that was in the office, and take me to Starbucks. I'm gonna have a seat and proceed to tell me that my services are no longer needed, which was odd because I brought my company over and purchased my company. So there's something that's needed. You needed something there. So they go on to tell me basically, they want to separate. I must have been a detriment to the company in some way, shape, or form. Jesus reminded me that I had brought a frivolous little tiny lawsuit, which was not going to come out, merit any big dollars being paid out. It was a silly, disagreement on a venue that when we do events. So, but again, Jesus reminded me that our CEO at the time was very, adverse to legal proceedings or legal, opportunity, legal,
actions.
Yeah, legal suits, actions. He was just very turned off by them. So they sit me down and they say, we want to buy your remaining shares for $40,000. And initially I felt very insulted. Actually, I forgot to mention this. I felt really insulted because math has never been my strong suit. Like, I can't do a bunch of numbers in my brain immediately, as you can attest to, Jesus. But I was very quickly able to know that, like, $40,000 is really you're lowballing me. But then on top of that, you're insulting my intelligence by thinking that I should even consider this. So I was insulted that they were insulting my intelligence by that offer, which I rejected like immediately. But having said that, had I took those $40,000 and bought $40,000 of Apple, I think I'd have $400 million right now. What would be your ballpark if I bought $40,000 of Apple back in 2006? What would that be fucking worth right now?
Let me quickly look up what it was trading at back then, and then we can kind of like forward to today.
Please do.
So in 06,
please do.
Hold on, I have it right here. In 06 of June, was it that you were let go?
Yeah. June 06.
June 06, 2006. Okay, here we go. So Apple was trading at roughly, and again, this is after several splits. They've split since then, but it was trading at $2.26 a share. This is
$2.
This is the splits. So again, it was trading higher than that number, but because it's split over time, then the charts get refined. So
oh, really?
If it was at 226, let's just say you bought $40,000 worth of it, you would have had about, let's just round up. Let's say you would have had 20,000 shares. And then if you multiply 20,000 shares times the current price, which is 145, you would have had 2.9 million in the bank. but that would have required you to hold, which,
Yeah.
I don't think either of us were very good at holding back in the day.
So all right. So even though I verbalized that I should have put it in Apple, so now what I did in 2008 was that when my dad passed away in 2008,
In 2008?
we were there at yeah,
No.
August 2008.
No,
Sorry,
no,
2018.
Yeah,
2018.
you warped me there. I was just like, what the hell? Like,
I always say 2008 for some reason when it was 2018. I don't understand why I do that. There must be some unconscious. Anyway, 2018, he passes away. He has a little bit of money in the bank. He has like 20,000 or some odd. So I dump it. So what I wanted to do was immediately buy a building, like a small building in the Bronx, because that's the only, unconquered territory of the boroughs. And when I start looking, I'm like, me thinking I could do anything with 20. The only thing I could buy $20,000 in the Bronx is like a fucking hot dog truck, maybe 2 hot dog trucks.
Yeah.
But I was way off on thinking I could buy something, so I just dump it in THC stock. I put $20,000 in THC stock. It immediately lost. I lost half of the value. But again, this is my long-term hold. Like, this is it. So we never our shares of our Batanga and whatever the hell it was called, VIX, that was supposed to be the retirement Hail Mary pass. That pass was intercepted and returned for a touchdown going the other way.
I like that analogy. That's a good one.
So once my dreams were crushed on that Hail Mary, this is it. It's all I got. THC, man. So I'm hoping in 20 years. No, I need it actually when my daughter is in college, going to college. She's going to be in roughly 10 years. Oh, it's not going to be enough time. I'm thinking 10 years.
We should talk after this. I have some ideas for you. But that being said, okay. Getting back to the offer on the table and kind of like the situation at hand, what would you say as you reflect back on that kind of meeting?
So right. So I'm there sitting there. It's like a gut punch, getting fucking run over by a truck, not having any idea. Like, you never anticipate that thing. No one ever expects to be fired. You can't really prepare for it emotionally, psychologically. You're never ready for that. So it was just really odd, weird, frustrating, depressing. I went home. I was living on Bright Street in Jersey City, downtown Jersey City. I remember, I guess, the girl I was seeing at the time, she had come over and, she was trying to, make me feel better, what have you. And I remember talking to you that night, and you somehow, I think you even said, like, what do you want me to do, bro? Do you want me to quit? I'll quit. It's fine. And then I believe I told you, no, don't do that. Even though I really did want you to quit, but I tried to give the mature answer. I think it was more my pride. I think that was it. I think I was too embarrassed to tell you to quit. I think I was embarrassed to say it. But I did want you to, I wanted you to fuck them over just the way they fucked me over.
Yeah, I remember bits of that conversation too. Sorry,
what do you remember from that conversation?
Yeah, I remember that feeling, like, of being very conflicted in my own personal decision. Stay with the company that I was a partner of, that was doing some things that I wouldn't be doing at other companies, or follow suit, or follow, a good friend of mine who helped co-found the business and walk away, and really, create some stress for them. And so, yeah, it was 2 difficult choices that I had in front of me, and had to kind of had to make a decision. And so I wanted to make sure we talked. And if you had told me to step away, I would have listened. I was young, and
would you have really
yeah. I was not paid. I was not being paid my market value. Remember, like, I had just to catch people up, for 3 years that I worked at Latcom, I was making roughly $50K on average, if you average out my salaries. And prior to joining LatCom, I was making more than that already. So I had really stepped down in terms of salary for 3 years, and I was getting my MBA at the time. So my equations were very different at the time, and I could have stepped away. I had a wife who was working as well, so we had some income. So it wasn't like we were going to be hurt for too long because I could find another job.
Right. I wonder now, in retrospect, like had you left, like what would have been the trajectory of everything? Like how would that have changed everything? We'll never know. Just curious.
Well, I can say this: the events would have definitely slowed down. We saw it. So when I eventually stepped away in 2008, the events went from like it was maybe one cycle, 1 year of events, and then that kind of dwindled. Like all of the step
And then it just went away.
Yeah, they dropped
right.
them, and just for people who we haven't got there yet, but we ended up coming back to work together and reigniting kind of that marketplace but LatCom Batanga wasn't doing it anymore. The magazine continued on, so that's probably what would have happened. Exactly what we saw. The magazine wasn't, even though it was Anthony's idea to create the magazine, and he and I created it and launched it together. And that was something that we weren't, like, our fingerprints weren't all over it. I think the team was smart enough to start diversifying, bringing in editors who can, put their name on the masthead, bringing in, circulation, like just putting a whole bunch of titles behind it.
Bringing in Mercedes Sanchez
to distinguish. Yeah, there were a bunch of editors, creative directors, sales people, including like Ben.
What's crazy is that all that infrastructure was for our little tiny 3-page insert that started in Urban Latino magazine.
Yeah,
may they rest in peace. But yeah, it just grows into like a bigger monster.
Yeah. So anyway, just getting back to that moment, really, it was tough time, and we had to figure out also what to communicate to the teams, because Anthony was the founder and creator of.
You keep saying that, and like I feel like that's so not important. Like in the grad, that's not. The teams are just gonna keep performing, bro. They don't care that one guy had to go. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I've seen. Well, a good analogy would be like a music group. Let's just say, like there are music groups out there who lose.
You're saying Aventura. Let's say Aventura. When Romeo.
I don't know them. Unfortunately, I don't know them as well. But maybe it plays. So let me give you the analogy, and then you tell me if it plays with Aventura. So essentially, there are music groups that have, let's say, 2-3 stars, within the group, and then one star is too big and decides to leave or step away because of arguments. The band just doesn't stay at the level that it was when they were all riding together, and they lose some of their audience because some of the audience came for that person, and some of the audience believed in that person.
You're giving me a lot of
right?
Recognition and a lot of what's the word you said?
Credibility.
Yeah, you're giving me way too much credit on this whole team's. I think it's much simpler than that, but I that's kind of you to think that.
I was younger, so I mean, I was also overthinking it as well. So that's a fair point, but still, you had more of the like. So for those who haven't watched any of our prior episodes, we were like salt and vinegar. Is that a good one? I don't know. We're opposites. You and
Salt and pepper.
We're opposites. You were never afraid to stand up and put your flag on plant your flag with a position that you cared about. Whereas I was more flexible. Like I would kind of like be willing to bend if I needed to, but sometimes you need that, that flag planted so that things can move forward in the right way. And so yeah, there were many decisions that you were putting yourself on the front lines to make, and you were willing to, kind of step in front of whatever fire was coming, like without.
I mean, a lot of that was just being young, naive, not caring, but not knowing enough that I needed to care. You know what I'm saying? Like, had I been more thoughtful, I would have probably not made many decisions. I guess again, I guess in those situations, my flaws helped as a as a a way of, you know, excelling in certain things where, again, a partnership is, you know, one person does one thing really good, the other person does this thing really good. Like, you don't do the same thing great, because that's not the best way a partnership can thrive, you know.
Yeah.
And we
But that's,
thrive together.
but
We were.
I'd still argue, man. I mean, even today in business today, like you need that person who's going to be courageous enough to stand by innovation. You know, like the Elon Musk with the like we're gonna go to Mars. I don't care what anybody thinks, what anybody says. We're gonna get to Mars. Period. And like he's just so
Mhm.
focused and driven to get there that I think you need
Wait,
that.
he's going to Mars, not the moon? I thought he was going to the moon.
No, I think that's Elon Musk is
The
definitely tracking to. He's trying to get people on
to Mars.
like civilization on Mars. He wants to colonize Mars. There's a website specifically about colonizing Mars, and he's figuring out how to do that. So he has the courage. Like the moon, we've been to. There's many. Yeah, I'm sure there's other groups trying to get to the moon as well. But anyway, getting back to us, man. So it was going to be a weird time without you. I just, for the audience, I decided to stay because, as I mentioned, I loved what I was doing. I didn't love the decision that was made, and I wasn't consulted either. But I was pulled into an office right after your Starbucks meeting, and I think they wanted to know what I was going to do because they had no
Right.
idea. And so it was nice to, like, I'm usually very predictable, but like feeling like I was unpredictable there was kind of
I
nice.
bet you Dave thought you were going to stay. So Dave thought he would talk you into staying. I think Dave was confident in that way.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he wasn't planning on you leaving.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. I'll ask him at some point. I'm still loosely in touch with him, but yeah. And getting back to you, like what else was going on in your life, like outside of work, like when you were let go?
So I was living in Jersey City. I had purchased I wish a brownstone condo on Bright Street in downtown Jersey City. I was entering my second year of MBA school, so it's not, luckily I had some career. I was helping, improve my career and improve my marketability, I guess, for the workspace. So that was a positive. Thank God I had that going. And then what I was thinking was I was trying to figure out like where I got money to live for like a year without work. And then I remember I sued Latcom for wrongful termination, and I won. They paid out. I want to say it was like 40,000 or 20,000. I forget, but whatever amount it was, I used it to live off of for like the next year.
Wow. Had you met Jen at that point, or what year did you guys
No,
initially?
I met Jen in December of 2006. So I met her later on.
Oh wow! So 6 months afterwards, 6 months
Yeah.
after the Starbucks meeting, you met your future wife, the future mother of your
Yes.
children.
My
Cool.
future baby mama. Yes, correct.
So there was some redemption, like some really good news on the horizon.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I never put that connection because I remember, I wasn't working. Yeah. I wasn't working when I had met her, but we were both in school because I met her in my program. She was a year behind me.
Right. So so we had an event literally 2 months later in August, and I recall always coming back to Anthony even after he had parted ways, to get his opinion on stuff, like feedback on flyers, on stuff that I knew he had a solid stance on, because like I like stuff, but I know that oftentimes the quirks that we introduce to the events, like usually the better ideas came from him, and I was more like initially not as receptive to some ideas. So I leaned on you at times for some additional advice along the way. And and I remember calling each and every team individually at some point within the next 2 months because the show was coming out. to kind of subtly smooth out that you weren't involved as much anymore.
No one even cared, right? Like that wasn't even a thing, an issue.
For the teams that didn't like you, they
Right.
were very vocal, and I
Which
would
were
have to,
weren't they all the teams pretty much?
no, not all the teams. I mean, some of them remember you from the beginning, from like '99 when they first performed, and they were kind of concerned that what does this mean for the show? Like, does that change how things run? What impact is it going to have on me? Ultimately, is what they were worried about.
Right. Just like a politician, it's always about me.
Yeah. So they so that's kind of where we got it, and fortunately we didn't lose any ground with them. But I can tell you, it just didn't feel the same anymore. Like, I mean, we had a great team in place at LATCOM. Like, we had a group of people that had helped us with other shows, had emceed other shows. So we had people that weren't going to step away. But so we were able to still, I guess, run events. Yeah, '06 was definitely a weird year. Like, you and I still got together. As you kind of told me in the pregame, you had set up some brainstorm
think tanks. I was trying to.
Yes.
Once I got fired, and I was in a nice duplex, 1-bedroom in Jersey City, and I had it was a lot of space because I was a bachelor and I didn't buy furniture. It was just like white walls, and it looked very clinical. And I just thought, like, man, we gotta. And I was in my MBA program, and I was just thinking, for some reason, I was doing my MBA. I just felt like this is the time to strike. Like, you got all this knowledge and all these case studies you're reading, and the world is just there for the taking. And I just felt like this was the time to do it. And but yeah, I just felt like, I guess, the people that I went to at the time were just had other things going on, and it wasn't a priority to them to start the next fucking Microsoft or the next fucking Google.
Yeah. There was some great flyers along the way too, of Suardano Fest.
Suardano Fest.
You had some really really amazing parties too, like in that space, like just
yes.
wild drinking fests, where just all of the networks that we had were coming together. And
I remember the amount of drinking I used to do, and I can't even. I could have right now. I have one beer.
Yeah.
And that's enough. That's it's too much. I don't want that much alcohol. It's because maybe we'll do an episodes on psychedelic medications, but that's helped me really kind of. I know we all hear the term mind altering.
Yeah.
Is that mind altering?
Mind altering drugs, you mean? Or
well, that's not exact. That it's kind of like what I want to say, but anyway, let's move on. Let's move on.
Yeah. No, we
mind expanding. Sorry, mind expanding. Yes,
right.
that's the term. Anyway, let's continue.
Yeah. So what else can we say about '06?
Yeah. So right. I get fired. I go home. We didn't discuss our phone call, did we?
Yeah, we kind of touched on it, but if there's more that you recall.
Yeah, basically, yes. I told you that I was ashamed to tell you to quit, but I was prideful. I wanted you to quit. Mm-hmm. But I think for me, in retrospect, the big learning curve is that right now I'm 46 years old, so I've matured a ton. And there were things I could have done differently, in the sense that I was just very brash and young and naive and cocky and confident, and all those things are good, but all of them put together can be me at 26. And then you say things that you don't need to say in a certain way to your CEO or your colleagues, and after a while it things snowball. And then you had reminded me that there was a lawsuit we were served with in October from some douchebag in Chicago. And then, the way I would just, I guess, be argumentative or kind of a bit disruptive. But what I realized, yeah, is that you can always communicate your point without all the show and the you know, the drama. And yeah.
Just if we fast forward 20 years, sorry to derail here, but I'm just
That's fine.
curious. Let's say your daughter, who we met in the prior episode, who asked us a few questions. Let's say
She's so
she's
smart.
now 26, the same age that you were. She's started her own company and gets acquired, similar to your situation. And then she's out there in kind of like a field of, let's say, 3 other founders or co-founders, and has similar kind of friction where they
Right.
decide to terminate. Or like, what advice would you have for her based on your kind of real experience?
I would have consulted. Yeah, I would have told her, or I would have hopefully guided her even before she merges to basically have an ironclad golden parachute in her employment agreement, which states that for whatever reason, should the company decide that she is no longer needed, then she would be paid out X amount, something equitable, something that's fair, just like all these other CEOs, corporate CEOs that get fired for, sexual assault or sexual harassment of employees, and then the CEO of whatever, a Fortune 500 gets fired, but he's fired with like $20 million payout and X amount of shares in the company that'll worth another $1 billion. So my advice to her would be to have a really ironclad employment agreement, and to you get what you negotiate, and you negotiate your protection and your I thought we had pretty good counsel. I mean, way smarter than we were in terms of legal stuff, but like, I think, and I don't remember if he did, but he should have really stressed to us that we needed a payout in case we were fired for whatever reason. Like, we needed a parachute, a financial parachute as well. So, because we were giving up everything we owned, everything we built, all our assets, everything that meant anything, that was worth anything of value, like we were giving it up. So I think you need protections in that situation. We weren't protected with our agreement, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. And I think as we look forward, the position we were in at that time, like you being, let's say, 26 years old, I was 3 years younger, I was 23. Like, I really didn't know much I was still a baby in terms of business. And
right.
And we leaned on networks of people that we trusted, that weren't like fully involved. Like, it was a loose network of people, like the Tony Martinez of the world, that would give us good advice. As you mentioned, our counsel gave us good advice, but no one was like willing to like almost like grab us by the shoulders and say, no, you do not sign this deal unless XYZ. Like, I don't think we had
I don't blame. I'm not gonna. I say the word blame. I'm not. It's not blame, but like, the only person I really think that should have got it was the lawyer. That person we were paying. Actually, we weren't even paying him.
Yeah.
He was doing this shit pro bono.
Yeah.
So, damn. I guess you get what you pay for, right?
Yeah. But sometimes lawyers kill deals. So I mean, if we had paid him, and if he had, and we probably couldn't have even afforded him, actually.
No, we couldn't have afforded him.
But if we had paid a lawyer and we felt the lawyer was kind of slowing the deal or causing it to maybe go off the rails because we were over asking, I don't think we would have known. I don't think we would have been wise enough to, like, yeah, I don't even know. Like, so my point is this: I agree. I hear what you're saying. We make the ultimate decision on what we choose, but without all the information, without an elder, who's been through the process,
right,
that could have said, guys, don't let go of this great thing. Like, it could have been Urban. Urban could have, they weren't the people, but they could have stepped in and said, you guys you're building something very special, very unique. And if you keep going it your own route, or if you make sure, it's such a weird situation, but like, I don't blame myself at 23, 24 years old because we didn't have that, because I couldn't have known. I just didn't have that experience.
I blame the lawyer a little bit, and I know he did.
The pro bono,
give
the
us
pro bono lawyer.
right the pro bono lawyer. Yeah, because we couldn't afford him. I think his hourly rate was like $1,000.
It was ridiculous.
That's how fucking.
Yeah.
That's how high level he was. He was like he was an intellectual property. He was an IP lawyer back in 2000 and what the fuck year was that? 2004, when like the internet was the internet existed, but the shit wasn't like it is now. Like, you know, like he must be charging $8,000 an hour.
Something insane. He's worth it though. He gave us some really good insight for free.
One thing I remember is that when he suggested that we license our brand to the company that was buying us, which is really smart. That's a way to, you know, you get fired, you walk away with your shit, then you know you're not hurt. You're made whole in a way if you're able to walk away with what you brought in, right?